Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Hakuouki Zuisoroku. Today we are starting on Hajime Saito's route, which means we have to go back to Shinsengumi's Adventures Part 1 and make some different choices. Try to catch that cat again, but do it in a different way. Alright, Shinsengumi Adventures Part 1. And of course we're going to be skipping until we reach new material again. Well, I'll show you the choices we have to make too. For our first choice here, we have to choose to catch the cat, because we know Saito and Okita are trying to catch the cat. This time we try to console the child instead of making him laugh. Let's see how that turns out. So, you were taking care of the cat then? He nodded despondently, still crying. I know you'd be really sad if it disappeared suddenly. I would too. But don't you think the cat might have had a good reason? Slowly, the boy calmed down. When he seemed a bit better, I decided to ask. We're actually looking for the cat, like you are. Can you think of anything that would help? Anywhere it might want to go? Ah! Why are you crying again? We just calmed you down. What? Sorry. His wailing suddenly was much worse than before. Something I said must have made him upset, but I had no idea what. Okita heaved a loud sigh, making a face and rolling his eyes at the noise. Not so good with kids in this one, are you, Okita? This is so annoying. I hate crying kids. They're such a pain. That was kind of mean. Saito frowned. He had watched the proceedings silently, content to observe, but finally he spoke up. You could lend us a hand here, man. Be quiet, Soji. The child is frightened. We can't get anything out of him. Well, aren't you a nice guy? So you're gonna wait until he stops crying? He shrugged and shook his head, each word that came out of his mouth rung with annoyance. I think I'm gonna keep looking. The kid probably doesn't know anything useful, and this'll just be a waste of time. Do as you please. Okita? I called after him, but his steps didn't even falter as he walked off. Saito remained unruffled. That's fine with me. I get to spend more time with my sweetie. Just let him go. He always does as he pleases. Okay. If we didn't manage to calm the boy down, then we'd be back where we started. It took a little while, but at last our patience was rewarded. Come on, kiddo. It's alright. So, you're saying you last saw the cat heading toward the Maikawa residence? Uh-huh. Much calmer than before, he wiped his eyes and nodded in reply. I guess that means we should try over there next? Yes, it is our only clue at the moment. We can only hope that it's still there. Right. Instead of returning to the search right away like Okita, we spent valuable time comforting the child, who knew if the cat had moved on by now. I was worrying over it as we walked when Saito suddenly spoke up. I've heard something we should take note of. Cats enjoy being up in high places. Perhaps it would help if as we travel, we pay attention to the rooftops around us. His insight was so out of the blue that all I could do was blink. You know quite a bit about cats. Have you had one before as a pet? I have not. I simply researched them a bit on occasion. I had no idea he was so knowledgeable. He must study a large number of things on his own time. My impression of him changed the tiniest bit, and I looked at him with new eyes as we crossed the compound. That is interesting. I wonder why he was studying cats at some point. As soon as we arrived at Maikawa...
Oh, what are you two up to?
Shimada spotted us as he came around the corner. Nothing. Should we answer? I wasn't sure how quiet we were trying to be about the situation. I glanced at Saito. Shimada spoke up before either of us could reply.
Does it have anything to do with the loud noises I heard earlier?
No, not at all.
Yes, a cat has found its way into the headquarters and is running loose. The chief doesn't need another thing to worry about, so we're dealing with it on our own. I see. How troubling.
Oh, I'm glad, Saito's open and honest about it, not trying to hide things.
But it must be difficult with just the two of you searching, even if you split up.
You gonna help us?
I gladly offer my assistance, if you don't mind me joining you. An extra pair of eyes, as it were.
Thank you so much!
It would be appreciated. We want to take care of this as quickly as possible.
Thank you for your help.
Of course. I'm glad to be of service.
We started discussing strategies and how best to cover ground when suddenly... Meow! Ah! Good timing, kitty!
It seems our intruder is closer than we thought.
He looks like he's about to reach for his sword. You don't have to cut it up. All of us exchanged nods. The capture plan we had formulated was going to be put into effect. What's our plan exactly? We stealthily approached the area the cry came from, slow and cautious. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. The cat had outmaneuvered several captains of the Shinsengumi after all. We had to be careful. As soon as it spotted us, the chase was on. We gritted our teeth and ran, determination pounding in our hearts. Winded breaths and scratched fingers later. Oh, we caught it! Saito and Shimada had teamed up to corner the cat. With nowhere to go, it had darted toward me, and I managed to snatch it up before it got away. Good going, Chizuru! But what should we do about it now? We can't keep it here.
Giving it to the Yagi would be foolish as well. That child isn't capable of taking care of it.
Yeah, he's already proved that.
The best option would be to release the animal outside headquarters, but...
But it might come back? What he said made sense. The cat had caused an incredible commotion and couldn't stay. But for some reason, my heart hurt just thinking about it, and I wasn't able to nod in agreement. I was worried. About the cat or the boy? About the cat. Who cares about the kid? I like animals. Will it be alright if we let it go? It doesn't look very old. It's almost still a kitten. Running around in a place it didn't know, all alone in the world, getting caught up in dangerous situations. I saw myself in this small creature, so much that I knew I'd feel horrible if we just let it fend for itself.
There's no way we know for sure if it will survive out there, unfortunately.
He hung his head a bit, looking somber, but Saito's face was an impassive, stern mask.
What we need to worry about isn't the safety of the cat, but keeping the peace of the Shinsengumi.
He's like that really strict father that cannot be swayed.
The cat has caused too much trouble. We can't keep it. We have no choice. Our only option is to release it.
You do have a point. This place was the home of these men, not me, who was only a guest. It was selfish of me to wish that they would prioritize the safety of the cat. I understood that, but I couldn't stop the feeling of helplessness that welled up.
I too feel pity for the creature, but there's nothing we can do. Its fate is out of our hands. I'll go release the cat outside the front of the entrance. Please return to your room.
All right. I reluctantly handed the cat over to Saito, who took it into his arms gently. Shimada gestured for me to follow him, and he escorted me back to my room. There's something sweet about him taking the cat gently. Night fell, but my conscience still racked me with indecision, and so I was unable to fall asleep. I just kept tossing. What was a happy life for a cat? Did they require the same things as a human? Or could they get by fine with a bit of food and a spot to sleep? My thoughts ran in circles, but unless I spoke directly to one of them, there's no way I was going to get an answer. Meow. I had a feeling it would find its way back. Wait, was that? That sounded like a cat. A moment's hesitation, and I gave in to curiosity. I got up out of my bed and slipped out of my room silently. Wait, did it come back, or did Saito actually not kick it out? Meow. There was no way I was imagining it now. It was definitely a cat. I think it's coming from over there. Is it Saito's room? I shuffled quietly toward the Maikawa mansion, trying to make as little noise as possible. Did he give it to the boy? What I expected to find there was not exactly what I found.
A place like this does not need a cat on her foot. That's why I can't let you stay.
Saito was conversing eye to eye with the cat from earlier. Oh, that's so cute! As if it were the most normal thing in the world. It sounded like he was trying to convince it of something. Oh. Knelt down on the floor, his face serious. He seemed very earnest in his discussion with the animal. The cat listened to him for a moment, then... Meow. It came forward and started rubbing its head on Saito's hand, making happy meowing sounds.
Please, you have to leave. You shouldn't get attached to me.
Oh, this is so cute.
Life here in this headquarters is more difficult than you are probably prepared for.
even for a cat.
None of the men in the Shinsengumi are kind enough to keep a small animal like you and care for it, including me.
Saito? Chizuru, what are you doing? You should have interrupted. Desperation was slowly creeping into his voice. Unable to stop myself, I raised my own and called out.
Oh, Chizuru.
Yeah, see, he's embarrassed. You shouldn't have done that. His head snapped around at the sound of my voice, and he shot to his feet. His attention must have been completely focused on the cat. I'd managed to startle him. Normally, someone of his skill would have noticed immediately if I was even just nearby. There was no way anyone could sneak up on him. Yeah, that's, really distracted for him.
Don't be mistaken. I have no intention of keeping this cat. It came back for some reason, and I was simply trying to get it to leave again.
Yes, I know. I was watching for a while. Just keep kicking him while he's down. But it seems it likes you. I'm not sure it's going to want to go somewhere else now. It's become attached.
No, you must be confused. It's not like that at all.
Meow, meow. Now it was passing back and forth around his legs, rubbing itself against him and purring. It's claiming you, Saito. Seeing that, how could he say the cat hadn't decided it liked him? Saito's face looked strained. He couldn't hold my gaze any longer, quickly glancing away. Do you like cats, Saito?
I don't hate them, but do not assume that means I like them either. But I admit that I see why people enjoy keeping them as pets.
Cats are pretty cute.
I suppose.
Ah, Saito blushing, that rare sight. He still wouldn't look me in the eye, but he nodded, a short, swift dip of his head. I knew I'd have to choose my words carefully to ask my next question, so I thought for a moment before turning to Saito. So, what are you going to do about the cat? We can't leave it alone and let it run loose throughout the compound.
I agree. We must get rid of it before it causes more problems for us.
Don't kill it. That makes it sound like he's gonna kill it. But it seems to like it here, so even if we shoo it out, there's a good chance it'll come back again.
You have a point. I am at a loss then. What do you suggest?
Well, he did ask for my opinion, but was it truly okay to speak up about matters concerning the Shinsengumi? I squared my shoulders and spoke with as much conviction as I could muster. Perhaps someone responsible could look after it. Like who? The cat seems attached to you, Saito. Maybe if you tamed it and taught it a few things. That way, it would be less likely it would cause more commotion if it stayed around here. That's what I think, at least. He didn't speak. In fact, he stilled into deep thought, but it looked like he was taking what I said into consideration. After a long moment, he stirred, his eye catching mine and holding it.
Chizuru, you are not to mention this to anyone else, but I'm going to do as you suggested.
Oh, okay. My initial impression of him had been that of a timid man, but this plan was rather bold, and I had not expected him to agree to it. From then on, the cat was quietly kept as a pet in an area behind the Maikawa mansion. Every once in a while, there would be a night when I could hear a cat crying out, and it always made me smile. So he didn't keep it in his room. The anxiety I'd always had since I came to live there felt lessened somewhat, and I knew that I'd be able to face even more difficult times in the future. I was ready for anything. Okay, so we can do Saito's Memories of Love Part 1. That should fit, I think. Memories of Love, Saito 1, September 1864. A month has passed since the Hamaguri Rebellion. The protagonist is out on patrol with Saito, but hasn't had much luck gathering information about her father. In the midst of her frustration, Saito stops in front of a store. He appears to be interested in their swords, but...
You can see into the heart of one's swordsmanship. Your blade was not clouded.
High praise from Saito. I felt like every muscle in my body suddenly tensed up. One moment his sword was in its scabbard, the next it was resting gently against my throat. When people said that the Shinsengumi was frightening, they weren't exaggerating. Saito's Iai was proof of that. See, okay, they do it properly in this. They capitalized it in the first game, which I don't think they should have because it's the name of a technique, and I don't see why they would capitalize it. In here, it's a lowercase I, so, it's not confusing. I hadn't seen them in action, but but the other captains had to be at least as talented as he was, if not more. You can't say that! I think, Saito and Soji are, the two most talented. But my fear didn't even seem to register with Saito. Instead, he told me in his quiet, calm way that my master should be proud. Somehow I'd impressed him. Which is quite a feat. I would never have said it, but his approval couldn't have come at a better time. House arrest had been starting to chafe. Now, finally, I could accompany the Shinsengumi on their patrols and search for my father. It was around that time that the Battle of Ikeda Inn took place, which pushed the Choshu to try and invade the Imperial Palace, which in turn led to the Hamaguri Rebellion. Several civilian houses were burned during the rebellion. Kyoto needed to rebuild, but it looked as if that process would take a long time. I did my best to look for my father while we were out on patrol, but try as I might, I couldn't even find a hint as to his whereabouts. September 1864. It was the hottest day in a long time. I was out on patrol looking for my father. Again? Memories of Love, Part 1. September 1864. Saito and his men had that particular shift, so I'd gone with them. The heat in the city was almost unbearable, like the mountains were the walls of an oven. A group of people were sitting listlessly at the side of the road. I stopped. They probably lost their homes in the fire. Saito? He turned around and looked at me placidly.
Is something the matter? Are you tired from walking?
Oh no, nothing like that. I was just, hoping to talk to these people. Would that be okay? They might know something about my father. He frowned just slightly. Is that not okay?
No, you can go. We have very little time to spare, however. You must be quick.
Thank you. I jogged over toward the small crowd of people who looked up as I approached. Excuse me, but I'm looking for someone. He's bald and...
That's all I get?
Huh. I talked to several different people, but none of them knew anything about my father. Was he even still in Kyoto? Could he have gotten involved in the Hamaguri Rebellion and lost his life? No, that wasn't possible. He had to be alive. You have no proof of that. This is one of those things. I feel it in my bones. I could just tell. I wiped sweat from my face and tried very hard to convince myself that was true. Saito had been walking in front of me when he suddenly turned around and spoke.
Are you all right, Chizuru? You seem particularly hot.
Really? You think I'm hot, huh? Oh yes, I'm fine. I didn't want him to worry, so I gave him my best smile.
Very well. If you do feel ill, inform me immediately. I cannot afford for you to be incapacitated.
Of course, thank you. I knew the only reason he was being so attentive was because Hijikata had given him orders to take care of me, but it was still nice that he was making sure I was okay. What about you? Aren't you hot? You're wearing black and you've got that jacket on.
It does look really, really uncomfortable. The heat is unpleasant but tolerable. What concerns me is...
Is what? He frowned almost imperceptibly and laid a hand on his sword.
Kyoto's summer is very humid. If I'm not careful, my sword will begin to rust. I hope autumn arrives soon.
He was more worried about his swords than about himself. It must be really important to you. Oh yeah, it's his life.
The sword is the soul of the warrior.
As he spoke, Saito pulled up short and turned to look at the building we were in front of. It appeared to be a sword shop. And yet, what else would you expect? He was staring at the sword on display, his gaze almost hungry. It was like watching a child who just discovered a new toy he had to have. Saito? He twitched a little in surprise and turned to look at me. I don't think I'd ever seen him that wide-eyed before.
I apologize. We still have a good deal of ground to cover. If we do not hurry, we will not return in time.
He composed himself and walked back toward the rest of his men. He looked really excited. Was that a nice sword? He drew himself up a little as he began to speak.
It was a Bizen, Osafune Kanemitsu. They say that if you want to buy a sword, buy one made in Bizen. And if you buy a Bizen, see that it's an Osafune. There are many other excellent Bizen smiths, however. They say that most of the swords in action today are in fact bees and blades.
Oh. He continued to talk about swords for quite a long time. To be honest, I'd never seen him so talkative before. It seemed a little strange that swords would bring him out of his shell, but it was nice. I don't think it's strange. I mean, if it's the thing he loves, of course he's going to talk about it a lot. I let out a small giggle.
Is something strange? I don't recall saying anything amusing. Please, don't tell me I've made a mistake somewhere.
Oh no, not at all. You're just so cute.
Then may I ask, why are you laughing?
What was I going to say? Let's see, I shall say, I think I understand. I'm just happy, that's all. Well, I don't really know much about swords, but I think I do kind of understand how you feel about them. I laid one hand on my kodachi as I spoke. I cherish my sword, too. Saito's mouth twitched into a small but genuine smile.
Ah, so you find yourself drawn to it as well. Then I have no doubt it will be there for you when you need it most.
His tone was as flat as ever, but there was a look in his eyes that I've never seen before. It was different from when he spoke up in meetings or issued orders to his men. Is it affection? I could see how much he cared about his swords. And possibly soon me?
In any event, we must increase our pace. We have taken longer than I anticipated.
You're right. I nodded, but Saito suddenly stopped. Again? I looked over and his face seemed strained.
Chizuru, about my delay at the sword merchant.
Don't worry, I won't tell Hijikata what happened. He seemed to relax. It was only for a second. He just stopped to look for a second.
I see. That was very childish of me. I can't believe I prioritized my own interest over my duty.
He hunched his shoulders and began to walk more quickly. Watching him made me think how he'd looked when we stopped in front of the shop earlier. He'd been so excited, almost like a child. It made me smile. Oh, if only I had the money to buy it for you.
What are you smiling for?
Oh, nothing. Nothing important. Just remembering something. The corners of his mouth twitched down for a moment.
I suppose I needed to ask what you were remembering.
Oh, he gets it.
No doubt you were laughing at me for neglecting my orders in favor of a sword on display.
No, I wasn't laughing at you.
There's no need to disassemble. I can hardly blame you for finding my behavior laughable.
Not laughable, it was cute, cute!
Though it might not be apparent, I do regret my actions. I swear I will not make the same mistake again.
He looked away from me with an attitude that can only be described as sulking. It wasn't that I'd meant to mock him. There had just been something about his childlike glee that was amusing and cute in a way, but no doubt telling him that would only upset him more.
Come along. Hijikata would likely be waiting for our report.
Oh, right. Oh, we could just say it made us happy seeing him being happy, right? I think that would be okay. You don't have to say cute. I could still preserve his manhood. Saito was a quiet, taciturn man, which many people, myself included, interpreted as coldness. But when swords were the subject of conversation, he lit up, and then pouted when that was pointed out. It was a side of him I'd never guessed at, and something about seeing it cheered me up. Oh, that was really cute. Alright, so we'll do his Shinsengumi Adventures 2 and see how he deals with the whole Shimbara thing. It's good to be on Saito's route. Alright, well, I hope to see you there or in some of my other videos, and I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, or shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye-bye, everybody.